Welcome to Therapeutic Value. My name is Justin Spillis. So today I want to speak a little bit about something I learned about myself in recovery. Apparently, I have been a selfish human being. Um, for 20 years of my life, I was an addict, and everything I did revolved around getting high. Um, no matter what it was, if it didn't have something to do with me or my to benefit my addiction directly, I didn't want anything to do with it. So I'm currently working through a program. It's a 12-step program. And come to find out, I'm not alone in my selfish behavior. Um, Addicts are self-centered by nature. One of the first words we learn as children is the word mine.
Mine?
And over the span of our lifetimes, it increases our self-centeredness, our selfishness. So one thing that I'm doing in my recovery is working through the steps, and I'm having to relive my past. And honestly, if you're anything like me, reliving your past is not it's not very appealing.
Nope.
There are a lot of different type of recovery programs out there. No matter what you're addicted to, whether it be alcohol, drugs, sex, gambling, there's something for you, and not all of them revolve around the steps. One thing that they do have in common, though, is service to others. One of the biggest part of recovery is to get out of your self-centered way and learn how to be of service to other people. Help someone some way that doesn't affect you. Don't benefit off of being there for someone when they're in need. So what I want to do is I want to challenge um, any of you who are watching this that are struggling with addiction, and I want you to try out a meeting. Um, Find a recovery group in your area. There are plenty, I'm sure, and just see what they have to say. Just go and listen. And if you are in recovery, I challenge you to do something nice for someone. I challenge you to help them without benefiting, and don't tell anyone about it.
What are you people doing?
All right, now the next thing I want to talk about is what's going on out in California. So, Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom has just pushed a bill through legislature that will make it legal to lock up not just homeless people, but people with untreated mental illnesses and addicts, alcoholics and drug addicts, force them into treatment for a year. Now, it hasn't been signed, it's not unanimous, it's going up for a vote next March. But what I'm understanding from this is they're trying to force people to get help. Now, I understand where they're coming from to an extent, but I don't agree with it. You cannot force an addict to get clean. You cannot force an alcoholic to stop drinking. You just cannot do it.
Nope.
Um, which brings me to my next point. There was a guy named Dustin Pittman. He was in a court-ordered treatment facility in Tennessee called, what is it? Serenity Rehab of Memphis. Whenever the orderlies were doing their hourly checkup on everyone, they found that he was non-responsive. Um, he was dead. An autopsy later showed that it was a fentanyl overdose. Now, what that tells me is being in forced recovery, you will still try to get your fix. You will do anything you can to get what you want. Now, brings me to another story. So, I was um I was in a court-ordered rehab probably 10 years ago down in Jacksonville, Florida, and it was 6 months of group of inpatient meetings with counselors and addiction therapists, and it was horrible. The entire 6 months, all I wanted to do was get out of there. 3 days after I was released was the first time I overdosed. It's the first time I was introduced to fentanyl. locking people up against their will and forcing them to get treatment is wrong. It is counterproductive. All it's going to do is lower their tolerance. So when they do get out and go back to the lifestyle that they want to continue to live, it's going to kill them. The drugs are getting stronger and stronger. And if you're not vigilant with your disease, with recovery and keeping your mind right, and you do fall off in your recovery and you go back onto drugs, you are going to die, without a doubt in my mind. Um, I wish I could say that was the only time I had overdosed, but it was not. I Quite a few times in my recovery, I've relapsed, and in 1 week, I think I overdosed 4 times. I was brought back with Narcan. Thank God they had it. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be here today. And now for Methin' Around Monday. So, speaking of being selfish and, you know, getting what I want when I want it, I I started working for a moving company a couple of years ago. Whenever I first got into recovery, and I had just come back off of a really bad relapse, and I was hanging out with some pretty rough people. Um, After my second day of work at this company, I left walking. I was going to walk home, and these guys that I knew pulled up in a U-Haul van right across the street from me, and they're like, "Hey man, hop in, hop in." So I go across the street, and they're like, "Yeah, bro, we got some meth. We're about to go get some fentanyl. Come on, let's get high." So I got in, and I did, a considerable amount of crystal meth with them. So we get to the drug dealer, and we buy the fentanyl. I'm sitting in the back of the van, and I'd only bought a very, very, very small amount. I bought $10 worth of this fentanyl. I split it in half because I knew my tolerance wasn't what it used to be. As I take the shot, I realized something's wrong. And I even said, "Oh, that was too much." The next thing I remember, I wake up in the back of a moving ambulance, um, with all kinds of stuff hooked up to me. It was one of the scariest moments of my life. So I'm freaking out because they Narcaned me, so that counteracted the fentanyl, but it didn't counteract the meth. Now I am scared, angry, freaking out. I'm like, "No, let me go." They're like, "Sir, calm down, calm down." So I take the straps off. They took the needle out of my arm, that was hooked up to the whatever liquids. So I start taking the straps off. The guy's like, "Sit back down." I hit him to the side, and I opened the back of the ambulance, and I jumped out of a moving ambulance. Okay, so I hit the ground and I roll. Apparently, I messed up my foot pretty bad. So it's raining outside. Of course, they stopped. They called the cops. Now I'm running for dear life. Um, I was probably 10 miles away from the sober house that I was living in. Yeah, I was living in a sober house at this time. It did not stop me from getting high. So it took probably, I'm going to say 12 hours to get to the sober house. But along the way, my meth-induced psychosis had me going up and down every street, hiding behind houses, running across the street. If I saw somebody on the side of the street that I was, oh, they had to be a cop. They had to be a cop. There was no doubt about it. So I take off to the other side. Um, I ended up making it back to the sober house, and of course, they all knew I was high. So they kicked me out, and I was homeless again. Luckily for me, that incident kind of opened my eyes a little bit, and I was able to stay off of drugs again for probably a good 6 months before a couple other bad instances. But anyways, that is all the time we have today. Thank you again for tuning in. Remember to subscribe and like this video. My name is Justin Spillis, and remember, you cannot have freedom without purpose. Thank you. If you were a loved one suffering from addiction, don't wait till it's too late. Make a call. get help. Reach out. Remember, you're not alone.